Master Elrond, allow me to present to you Farin of Erebor, a very valiant dwarf.
Indeed. It is an honor to welcome one so brave to my home, and your companions as well.
I am grateful for what you did at Fornost. If Agandar's forces had joined in the hunt, there is little chance that I and my charges would have made it here to safety.
My thanks. Are you the lord of these halls?
Yes, I am Elrond Half-Elven, Lord of the Refuge of Imladris, or as you know it, Rivendell.
Half-Elven? Are there men in your heritage, then?
Both my sire, Earendil, and my mother, Elwing, had fathers who were of the Edain, the most noble of the men of old. They and their descendants are called the Parenthil, which means the Half-Elven.
Are you then of mortal kind, like other men?
To each of the Parathil is given a choice, whether to become mortal or to accept the life of the Eldar, the Elves. Long ago, I chose to be counted among Elven kind. My own children will face this choice as well.
I'll admit I'm surprised a dwarf can find so warm a welcome in the hall of an elf lord.
Conflicts there have been between our folk in the past, but you are one of the trusty folk of Durin's line. More often than not, your people and mine have been allies and friends.
Happy to have been of service. Can you tell me what happened to you after we parted company?
I found the hobbit Frodo Baggins and his companions and led them through the wilderness, hoping to throw the Nazgul off our trail. All the same, 5 of them attacked our camp at Weathertop, and Frodo was badly wounded. After that, the enemy pursued us almost to the hidden pathways of Rivendell itself. We never would have saved Frodo, except that we had the help of Elrond and his people.
I still can't make out why the enemy would send his most terrible servants all the way from Mordor just to hunt for a hobbit.
I think it is time we told our newfound friends what they have gotten themselves into.
Gandalf, I should have known you would be involved with this somehow.
Indeed. Wherever there is trouble and strife, and the enemy is stirring, there you will find Gandalf the Grey.
I believe I have begun to glimpse the truth, yet I would gladly hear your explanation, Mithrandir.
You have more than earned such an explanation. Tell me, what do you know of Isildur's Bane?
I know nothing of this. What is Isildur's Bane?
Isildur's Bane is the Ring of Power, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron long ago.
Into this ring, Sauron bound the greater part of his power, but it has been lost for many hundreds of years.
Why did Sauron make the ring?
It was part of a grand deception. Sauron taught the elves the art of making rings of power, but secretly he planned to make one master ring through which he could control all the lesser rings, and those who wore them.
Learning at the hands of the Dark Lord sounds pretty foolish to me. Why would your folk ever do such a thing?
At that time, Sauron was still able to assume what form he wished. He came to the elves in a fair guise, and played on their greatest desire, to preserve and protect what they loved in Middle-earth.
Eager for knowledge, they learned from him and made many rings. The greatest of these were Narya, Nenya, and Vilya, the 3 rings of the elves. When Sauron forged the one ring, the elves were instantly aware of his betrayal.
The Dark Lord made war on the elves and seized the lesser rings. These he gave freely to dwarves and men. Those same men who became the Nazgul. To Sauron's dismay, the dwarves proved less easy to dominate. By force, he took back 3 of these dwarven rings. The rest were consumed by dragons and destroyed.
The elves were very hard-pressed, and Sauron's dominion spread over the greater part of Middle-earth.
What saved the elves from final defeat?
The coming of my ancestors. The Dunedain, led by Elendil the Tall, a lord of Lost Númenor, came to Middle-earth seeking new lands in which to dwell. They were the sworn enemies of Sauron and staunch allies of the Elven King, Gil-galad.
An alliance was formed between elves and men, and together they drove back the armies of Sauron.
In the end, Gil-galad and Elendil threw down Sauron at the cost of their own lives.
What happened to the ring after Sauron's defeat?
It was claimed by Isildur, Elendil's heir. It was he who cut the ring from the Dark Lord's hand with a hilt shard of his father's sword Narsil, broken in the battle.
I counseled him in vain to cast the ring into the fires of Mount Doom, near at hand, but he would not heed me.
Why didn't Isildur wish it destroyed? It was made by the enemy. He must have known it would only lead to trouble.
The ring has a power over the minds of all who come into contact with it, filling them with a desire to claim it as their own. This temptation is all the greater for those who already possess a measure of their own power. Isildur was a mighty lord, and the lure of the ring was more than he could resist.
He would not suffer the ring to be destroyed, thinking perhaps that he could use its power for the good of Middle-earth. Yet it is a work of the enemy, and in the end it corrupts all who possess it.
So Isildur was corrupted by the power of the ring.
He would have been, but it happened that he was slain in an ambush while traveling with only a few retainers. In this, the malignant power of the ring was at work.
Yes, the ring betrayed him to his death and was lost, passing out of all knowledge for many long years.
But it still exists.
And I would wager it has turned up again.
Quite right. After lying lost and nearly forgotten for centuries, Sauron's ring has once again been found.
Do you mean to say the hobbit Aragorn rescued has come into possession of the Dark Lord's ring?
Aye, that would explain those accursed Black Riders. But what is to become of the ring now?
There is no safe resting place for the ring, not even here in Imladris. It is a danger to all who come near to it. There is only one course left to us. The ring must be destroyed.
To do so, the ring will need to be cast into the same fires from which it was forged. Those of Mount Doom, in the land of Mordor. The hobbit, Frodo Baggins, has agreed to take it there.
It cannot be that you will send a halfling alone and unaided into Mordor.
No, certainly not. A fellowship will be formed. A fellowship of 9. 9 walkers set against Sauron's 9 Black Riders. Among this fellowship will be representatives of all the free peoples of the world. Elves, dwarves, and men. Aragorn and I will both be going.
We've proven we can handle a fight. Let us join this fellowship of yours.
The hope of the Company of the Ring lies in speed and secrecy, not in strength of arms. Their number must be few. Even were we to send 1,000 such warriors on this journey, it would do little more than arouse the wrath of the Dark Lord.
We are at your command. Tell us what we can do.
The Nazgul and Agandaur are dire threats. We must learn all we can of their movements before the Fellowship is to depart. Scouts will be sent out in every direction to scour the lands around Rivendell. Your aid in this would be of great service to our cause.
Very well. Where should we start?
Agandaur is our chief concern. Although the Nazgul are powerful foes, our mission here in the north is abundantly clear. We can only guess what Agandaur may be planning, or where he went after he escaped from you.
I suspect he may be planning to move against us here. Sauron's hatred of the elves is very great, and he does not forget the hand we played in his defeat during the War of the Last Alliance.
If it is strength he wants, he may well find it among the Etenmoors.
You know that region better than I. What can you tell me of the Ettenmoors?
The Etenmoors are a spur of the Misty Mountains, lying almost directly north of Rivendell. It is a wild region of very rugged terrain, home to many trolls and giants.
I myself was in the Ettenmoors but days ago. I saw no sign of Agendaur's presence, but neither did I encounter trolls. That fact alone is troubling. It could be that they are gathering in force, somewhere among the moors.
If that's so, we don't want them taking us by surprise. We'll make our way to the Ettenmoors and see what we can find out.
From what I have heard of you, from Aragorn and Elrond's sons, I expected no less. Still, you have had a long road and hard fighting to get this far. Take what time you need to rest and recover before you set out. The Ettenmoors are a dangerous place for the unprepared.
The hospitality of my house is yours, for as long as you wish.
Ah, Farin. It is good of you to seek me out. You are a stout dwarf, like all of Durin's folk, and your courageous deeds have shown your worth.
What's Agendaur after? There are no mighty kingdoms to be found on this side of the Misty Mountains. What's Sauron afraid of here?
Sauron seeks dominion over all of Middle-earth. His desire is to order all things as he sees fit. Even were these lands empty from here to the sea, still, he would seek to control them. There is power in Rivendell that could stand against him when all others fall. For a time. And this is something Sauron cannot allow.
I came all the way from the Lonely Mountain to help guard the Shire. Should I abandon what I set out to do?
You fulfilled your oath and protected the Shire when you were needed there, my good dwarf. Now you're needed more urgently elsewhere. With the flight of the ring in this direction, the enemy is looking this way and has forgotten the Shire for now. For now. But eventually his eye will turn once again toward the Shire. As humble as it is, hobbits as miserable slaves would please him far more than hobbits happy and free. And there is such a thing as malice and revenge. Sauron will leave the final devastation of the Shire to his servant Agendaur. And that is yet another reason why you must find him, put an end to his designs. In opposing Agendaur, you are defending the Shire.
We had one of the great eagles lend us a hand at Claw at Fornost. Right handy he was too. I was thinking he might help us get rid of the ring.
I don't fault you for thinking along those lines. Why not beg a ride from an eagle, fly far out to the west, and drop the ring into the deepest part of the sea? Such ideas were debated at Elrond's council. But there are many things in the deep waters, and seas and lands may change. We cannot think of our time alone. We must destroy this thing forever.
A hobbit wouldn't be a burden to an eagle. Send him straight to Mount Doom and problem solved.
Indeed. So simple as that. You think so mighty a creature as one of the great eagles could simply waft into Mordor and escape the eye that never sleeps? No. Not all the eagles of the Misty Mountains could stand against Sauron and the full power of his ringwraiths. It would be folly. Nor, for that matter, do the great eagles take orders from us.
This orc lover, Agendaur. Do you know anything about him?
Though I know nothing of Agendaur himself, I have seen his kind at other times in distant lands. He is likely a black Númenorian, and a master of dark sorceries.
Well, that doesn't sound good. Just what we need, a sorcerer with a 5,000-year-old grudge against all free folk.
Who can say what promises Sauron has made to him? Perhaps even a ring of his own. At the very least, Agendaur expects to rule all of the North. he would be a cruel tyrant. The elves he will seek to utterly destroy. Hobbits, men, dwarves, any that survive, will be enslaved. And he will raise an Iron Kingdom in the north, in mockery of the ancient glory of Arnor. This is his dark dream. It must never come to pass.
When we first spoke, you said you recently passed through the Ettenmoors. Can you tell me anything more of them?
It is a rough and empty land, home to many trolls. I passed through with great haste, for I needed to reach Rivendell as quickly as I could.
You said there was no sign of trolls.
I saw neither trolls nor fresh signs of them. And that disturbs me more than encountering one. I doubt they've all packed up and left. Mindless brute creatures they may be. Yet they can be used and driven to even greater wickedness by a strong enough hand. Agendour could well be forming them into an army.
Do you think he's mustering the trolls for an attack?
That is my fear. I would gladly be proven wrong, but my heart misgives me that somewhere in the Ettenmoors, you will find them gathering and being prepared for war. We must know. Such a force could be sent against Rivendell, perhaps in hopes of capturing the ring.
I'll get my friends and we'll head for the moors. If there's something to find, we'll find it.
Greetings to you, Farin. Many times in the past have I welcomed your kin to my home. The bond between our kindred has at times been shaken, yet it has never been broken. Always before, I have placed my trust in Durin's folk, and never have they betrayed it. You will always be welcome here in Imladris, my friend. Yet I am certain you did not come here merely to exchange pleasantries. That is not the Dwarven way. Do you have questions for me?
I found this scroll at Fornost. I think maybe you should take a look at it.
A wise decision. This is writ in the black speech of Mordor, a language I will not utter here. It is intended to instruct the reader in the use of dark sorceries.
Well, maybe we should turn the tables on the enemy by making use of this scroll ourselves.
Have a care, warrior of Erebor. You tread on dangerous ground when you harbor such thoughts. This, like all works of the enemy, is altogether evil. Any who make use of this, even from a desire to do good, will only be corrupted by it. Surely the ring has taught us that much.
What is the Black Speech?
A language devised by Sauron when he desired a single tongue to be spoken by all who serve him. He had small luck introducing it to the scattered tribes of orcs and trolls, but it is still used by his highest-ranking servants.
We faced orcs at Fornost who used spells against us.
Then it seems this has already been put to use. That is grim news. The Dark Lord is a master of necromancy and other foul sorceries. He has taught these abominations to men in the past, but never, to my knowledge, to orcs.
I don't like the sound of that word, necromancy. What is it?
Necromancy is the darkest form of sorcery. It deals with raising the dead.
The Dark Lord has this power?
He does indeed. It was for this reason he was known as the Necromancer when he still dwelt in the fortress of Dol Guldur in Mirkwood. At that time we did not know this was Sauron returned, but we knew there was a great evil there. Have you not experienced this power firsthand in your journey through the Borrow Downs? It was Sauron's chief servant, the Witch King, who summoned the Borrow Wights to infest those tombs.
I was told that many of the men buried in those tombs were the Dunedain. How is it that Sauron can make them forget their past loyalties?
These shades are not truly the dead returned to life. Not even Sauron has that power. It is accomplished through the summoning of malignant spirits to inhabit the remains of the dead. It is a mockery of life, and the foulest form of desecration.
Good thing we captured this, then. What will you do with it?
I will destroy this scroll at the very least. But wait, here I discover more. Listen to what is written herein. Scribed by the hand of Agandaur, disciple of the great Lord Sauron, for the empowerment of his servant Wulfrun and those others of his faithful who prove worthy. I will speak no more of these blasphemies, but it does say that this scroll is one of 7 such works.
Seems like Agandaur could have written a whole lot more than just 7.
Perhaps, but creating something of this nature is not a matter of simple scribing. Considerable preparation and effort is involved. We have reason to hope there are no more than 7.
So there are 6 more of these accursed things. Maybe we can find them all.
That would be a great service to our cause. Should you recover them all, bring them to me, and I will ensure they are destroyed.
Why bring them back? I can burn up any I find the moment I get my hands on them.
You will find that works of this sort are not so easily destroyed. There are strong wards placed upon them that protect them from mundane harm. But I have the necessary skill to remove these wards. Should you gather the remaining scrolls, bring them to me, and I will see them destroyed.
You can count on that.
In the meantime, please accept this in appreciation for bringing this matter to my attention. Perhaps it will be of service to you in your travels.
My thanks to you. Farewell for now.
Ah, Farin. I am glad you are here. I feel I must apologize to you. When I was told a dwarf had appeared on the borders of the Shire asking to join the Dunedain in their watch, I was suspicious. I instructed Halbarad to keep a careful eye upon you, fearing you were a spy. Clearly he grew to trust you. And after all you have done, I have as well. I am sorry to have doubted you, my friend.
I'd like to know more about those chosen to be part of your fellowship.
Who is it that interests you?
Tell me about the Wood Elf, Legolas.
It is fitting that we have a representative of the Eldar, the Elves, along with us on this venture. They have been foes of Sauron since before the ancestors of the Dunedain first returned to the shores of Middle-earth. Legolas is keen of eye and ear, and he is unmatched as a bowman. His arrows seldom miss their mark.
What about this man of Gondor, this Boromir?
Boromir is the son of Denethor, the steward of Gondor. I had never met him before Elrond's council, but long years ago, under another name, I served his grandfather Ecthelion. The men of Gondor are valiant and strong, and by all accounts Boromir is foremost among them in courage and skill at arms. I suspect we will have need of his sword before our quest is through.
At least you will have a dwarf along with you, and one of the best too. You won't find a better companion than Gimli, son of Glóin.
I have only just met Gimli, but I hope he will prove to be much like you, stout-hearted and reliable, and a terror to his enemies in battle.
What about these other hobbits? Is it wise to send so many of the little folk on this quest?
We are asking much of Frodo. Until recently, he had never set foot outside the confines of the Shire. It will be a comfort for him to have the familiar companionship of his friends and kin in the face of so much that will be new and frightening. I have traveled with these hobbits, and they proved far more courageous and hardy than many would suspect.
What about Gandalf? What can you tell me of him?
To know all there is to know of Gandalf would require a lifetime study. There is much about him that remains a mystery, even to me. Yet he is a relentless foe of Sauron, and without his vigilance, the ring would already be in the hands of the enemy. His wisdom and leadership will be of great value to the Fellowship.
So, you go now to claim the throne of Gondor.
Above all, I go to help Frodo fulfill his quest. For unless the ring is destroyed, Gondor will soon fall, king or no king.
Word is you've traveled a great deal. Is there anything you can tell me of the Ettenmoors?
Only that it is a dangerous and unforgiving place. My own grandfather Alador was slain by trolls in the Ettenmoors. It is important we learn if the enemy is active in the moors, but we do not send you there lightly. Be on your guard at all times while you venture there.
I take it you'd never heard of Agandaur before we spoke of him.
I had never heard nor dealt with Agandaur specifically, but I know his kind. Years ago I served in disguise in the armies of Gondor, where I contended with the corsairs of Umbal, who were often led by those akin to Agandaur. These black Númenóreans are a corrupt and wicked race. They worship Sauron as a god and seek the utter destruction of all who oppose him.
Good luck to you.
Even in strange surroundings, you can trust a dwarf to find his way to a forge. You are welcome in my smithy, Farin of Erebor.
Seems like you're preparing for something. Can you tell me what you have planned?
My fellow smiths and I are preparing for a great work. Soon we will be called upon to reforge the legendary sword Narsil. In the meantime, I've been sharpening my skills by practicing the art of imbuing gemstones.
What can you tell me of this sword, Narsil?
Narsil was the sword of Elendil, a mighty lord of the Dunedain who defied the Dark Lord in the War of the Lost Alliance. He bore the sword in battle against Sauron, but he was slain and the sword was broken. Since that time, the shards of the sword have been an heirloom of the House of Elendil. It was to remain broken until the day when an heir of Elendil would go to war to reclaim the crown and title of king. That day will come soon, and the sword must be made whole once again.
What do you mean by imbuing?
Simply that certain objects have inherent virtues, and a skilled artisan can, through his craft, increase those virtues and bind them to an object for advantage. Gemstones are very strong vessels for this process. Sadly, appropriate gemstones have become difficult to find. The growing trouble throughout the land keeps travelers away, and our own people are staying closer to home.
Maybe I can lend a hand with that. I'll be traveling soon.
I would be pleased to have your help. I will provide you with a list of the types of gemstones that are of the greatest value to me. If you collect the stones, I am certain I could create something that you would find useful. But to be of use, the gemstones must be of the highest quality. Fortunately, we have as a guest a dwarf of the Lonely Mountain. Glóin is his name, and he is skilled in the appraisal of gems of all sorts. Once you have gathered the stones, allow him to examine them. He'll know if they are suitable.
I should be going.
The sun shines and all is fair and peaceful here in Imladris. A far cry from the blood and dust of Fornost, is it not? You and your companions did very well there. Indeed, things might have gone badly for us had you not been there. You have earned some time to recover from the toils of battle and hard travel. And I believe you will find no place better for the restoration of body and spirit than this, our home.
What was it that brought you to Fornost?
We often ride far afield hunting the orcs, wherever we may find them. We came upon signs of a large band of goblins making their way from the orc hold of Mount Gram and followed their trail to Fornost, where we lost no time in attacking them.
I take it you often join forces with Aragorn.
Yes, we often venture forth in company with the Dunedain, and none more frequently than Aragorn. He was raised here in our household, after all.
How is it that a man was raised here among elves?
It is a tradition for the heirs of Isildur to be fostered in the House of Elrond. We have sheltered all the chieftains of the Dunedain from the time the Northern Kingdom ceased to be down to this present day. Aragorn is the 16th in line from father to son to spend his early years in Imladris. This is one reason why the bond between the elves and the Dunedain is so strong.
Will you tell me more about your family? I know Elrond is your father.
Yes, it was he who established the refuge of Imladris. My brother and I have dwelt here all our lives. Our sister Arwen dwells here as well, although she has spent many years in the company of our grandmother.
And your mother, does she dwell here also?
Our mother has crossed the sea and left Middle-earth. It is a bitter tale to tell. Many years past, on a journey across the Misty Mountains, our mother was captured by orcs. We searched the mountains without rest until we found her at last. Our father was able to heal her injuries, but the memory of her torment was too terrible for her to bear. At last she chose to depart for the Undying Lands. Perhaps now you understand why our hatred for the orcs is so great.
That's an awful tale to hear. I shouldn't have brought it up.
No, my friend. We have drawn swords together in the same cause. You have earned our trust. We do not wish to keep anything hidden from you. This is the evil that we have pledged our lives to destroy, just as you have.
I may need a few things before I'm ready to set out. Can anyone here help me with that?
If it is provisions or other supplies you need, you should speak with Alari. And if your arms and armor need tending, seek out Angmir. Both of them may be found nearby.
I should prepare for my journey north. Farewell. Gimli, son of Glóin! This is a happy meeting. But what brings you to Rivendell? What has passed for good or ill since I left the mountain?
Aye, and it's good to see you again, kinsman. I've heard of your exploits at Sarnford and Fornost. They sing your praises here. After you left to aid in the protection of the Shire, the foul messenger from Mordor returned yet again with more threats. King Dain thought it best to seek advice from Elrond. He chose Glóin to speak for him. When my father set out, I refused to be left behind, as happened with Thorin's quest. You were there at the Battle of the Five Armies, while I was left to cool my heels at the hearthside. Well, not this time. I go with the hobbit Frodo and his chosen 9, even if one of them must be a wood elf.
Hobbits, what think you of this Frodo with such a burden to bear?
I know that he's Bilbo's adopted heir, and that such great folk as Elrond and Gandalf regard him with honor. He's already come far with the ring, and endured the knives of those Nazgul. That's good enough for me. He's hereabouts somewhere if you wish to speak with him.
Who's this wood elf you spoke of? It's a long way from the forests of Mirkwood.
Legolas is his name, a fair-haired princeling and son to King Thranduil. Elrond has chosen him to represent the kindred of elves in Frodo's party. His purpose in Rivendell was to report that they'd let a prisoner escape. An easier escape than my father had when they held him in their dungeons.
Come, Gimli, that's an old grudge, and not even your own. The elves of Mirkwood fought and died alongside us in the Battle of Five Armies, and my new friend, Andriel, has saved my hide more than once.
Aye, true enough. For Frodo's sake, I must bear the company of Legolas and make the best of it. Perhaps he won't be entirely insufferable. And besides, we've enough to worry about as it is, what with this Agandaur skulking about in the north.
The Battle of Five Armies was long and terrible, and many valiant lives were lost. Glory's of little use to the dead.
You say it as one who has won a share of glory and lived to tell of it, and doubtless will do so again. Don't begrudge me this chance to show the worth of a dwarf against hopeless odds. But in truth, it's not for glory I take this road. It's for the sake of all who lie under the shadow of the enemy. It's Frodo who bears the true burden.
We killed an orc chieftain and drove Agendour from his stronghold. What worries you about the north?
Before we left, we heard that Mordor was stirring up the Easterlings. But should they be foolish enough to move against King Brand of Dale, they'll find King Dane of Erebor standing fast at his side. But every step of the way here, we heard rumor of new gatherings of orcs and goblins and worse things. And though the fearful count every enemy twice, there may be some truth to it. You found such enemies at Fornast. When Sauron strikes, there will be more than one land that feels his wrath. I fear for the Shire and Rivendell, but my heart would rest more easily if I knew you kept watch over them. If Faron of the Lonely Mountain defends the north, then no enemy can prevail.
You don't ask much, but my friends and I will do what we can. If you can bear the honor of the dwarves on your quest, I can do no less here. You have my word on it.
Hello. You are Farin, aren't you? I was hoping I would get a chance to speak with you.
Hi, and you must be Frodo Baggins. Aragorn and Gandalf have told me all about you, and the burden you bear.
Likewise, they have told me all about you. I wanted to thank you and your friends for all you did to keep us safe on our journey to Rivendell.
Will you tell me about your journey here? Sounds as if it were a rough one.
We had trouble almost from the start. The Black Riders were always just behind us, and we nearly met disaster in the Burrow Downs, at Bree, and again at Weathertop.
You came through the Burrow Downs? I won't soon forget that accursed place. You were lucky to come out alive. That's no place for hobbits to go a-wandering.
You seem to know a great deal about the Burrow Downs already. I'd prefer not to speak about what we found there. It is too horrible to dwell on, even here in the safety of Rivendell.
What happened at this place called Weathertop?
We were attacked by 5 of the Black Riders. I was foolish, and I put on the ring. One of them wounded me before Aragorn managed to drive them away. The knife that was used against me left a shard in the wound. From what Gandalf has told me, the fragment was working its way inward. If it had reached my heart, I would have become a wraith under the power of the Black Riders. Fortunately, we were able to reach Rivendell in time for Elrond's healing arts to save me.
It is a little thing, this ring, but filled with mischief. Will you show it to me?
No, I mean, I'm sorry, but Gandalf and Elrond have warned me against revealing the ring to anyone, even proven friends. I hope you understand.
I think I do begin to understand. I shouldn't have asked. Forgive me.
There is nothing to forgive. But the ring, it has a strange effect on everyone around it. It is better for it to remain hidden.
What happened to you in Bree? We must have just missed crossing paths there.
There were spies in Bree, and our room was attacked in the night. If Strider hadn't convinced us to sleep elsewhere, our journey would have ended then and there.
You've got hidden strength in you, like all your kind, it seems. I think you will do us all proud. Good luck to you, and all who go with you.
Farin, my lad, by my beard, it's good to see you again. When you left Erebor to stand guard on the Shire, Gimli and I feared we might be seeing the last of you. Now I hear you stood with the Rangers in the battle against the Nazgul at Sarn Ford, and bested an orc chieftain at Fornost. Good work!
I can't take all the credit. I had Andriel, an elf of Rivendell, and the ranger, Eradan, at my back.
Reminds me of the old days when dwarves, elves, and men fought together in the Battle of the 5 Armies.
Then I've your blessing being allied with an elf?
I will speak plainly. I may be less than fond of King Thranduil's wood elves for keeping me in their dungeons, but I've no grudge with any of Elrond's folk.
So I've heard you say many times, but the elves fought beside us when it mattered most.
You're right, of course. I can be a stiff-necked old dwarf, but it's time to set aside grievances that were long ago repaid. When dwarves, men, and elves fought together at Erebor, we overcame legions of foes. But we face a far more terrible enemy in the Dark Lord. Standing together against Agendar may be more than just a good idea. It may be our only hope to save the North.
Let's not leave out the Eagles. They've been a big help to us.
Well spoken. Thorin's quest and the Battle of Five Armies would have meant disaster without the help of the Eagles. You're fortunate to have gained the friendship of such noble creatures. Your life may well depend upon your choice of friends, whatever kindred they be.
And besides, it wouldn't hurt to keep Sauron a little distracted. If we keep him second-guessing his plans for the conquest of the North, it could only help Frodo in the long run.
That's my thoughts upon the matter, too. Be the stinging fly in the ointment, as it were. Only this fly's sting will be deadly, and it's time to be about your business. Goodbye, and good luck to you.
Hello! Always happy to meet a dwarf. And one from the Lonely Mountain, if I'm not mistaken.
I am Faran of Erebor, and we've met before, Bilbo Baggins.
Have we now? Oh, I'm afraid I don't recall. But you'll have to forgive me. I've grown somewhat forgetful lately.
We met upon your last visit to Erebor. I guess that was near 20 years ago now. And before that, I had the honor of sharing the field with you at the Battle of Five Armies. That was my first real taste of battle. I was hardly more than a lad at the time, but it was a glorious day.
Oh, yes, the Battle of the Five Armies. A nasty business, that. Personally, I'm glad those days are behind us. But then again, it seems as if they may not be. Everything seems to be pointing to some dark times ahead. Speaking of which, I'm told that you and your friends did a great deal to help my Frodo and the Dunedain reach Rivendell safely. You'll have to tell me all about it one of these days so I can write it down properly.
This Frodo, he is your heir, but I had not heard that you had a son.
Oh no, he's not my son. Actually, he's my first cousin once removed. And also my second cousin once removed. Well, it's complicated, but we share a great-grandfather. The poor lad was orphaned at an early age, and so I adopted him. Made him my heir, all nice and legal, while simultaneously dashing the greedy hopes of my odious relations, the Sackville Baggins. He's a good lad, Frodo. I only wish he hadn't inherited my troubles along with my estate. I hope that Gandalf and the Dunedain will keep him safe in the days ahead.
The Dunedain? Who do you mean?
Why, Aragorn, of course. From the Elvish, Dun-Adan, man of the West. Númenórea. Around here, Aragorn is often known simply as the Dunedain. A remarkable man, Aragorn, and a good friend. I almost wish that I could accompany him on his grand quest, but I'm far too old for adventures now. I only hope I will be spared long enough to write it all down.
Can you tell me how Frodo came to hold the Ring of Power?
Well, yes, that was through me, I'm afraid. I found the ring by happenstance while lost beneath the roots of the Misty Mountains. I won it. That is to say, I took it from the creature Gollum. Of course, I did not know the full story of the ring until only a few days ago. I thought it was merely a magical bauble with the power to make the wearer invisible. I only used it to avoid unwelcome visitors. Imagine that old ring of mine causing such a fuss. I would gladly take charge of it again if that would help. Oh yes, gladly. Yes. You know, I think it would be best if we discussed something else.
Now you call Rivendell your home.
Well, the Shire will always be my home, I suppose. But this is the perfect place for so many things that I'm more than content to remain here. My days are mostly filled with my writing now.
What is it you write?
Oh, a little of this and a little of that. History, my past adventures, family trees. I've even begun a book of translations from the Elvish. Although lately I've been working on poetry mostly. Say, maybe you could help me with that. I'm writing a poem for Aragorn and I'm a bit stuck on a line or two.
Are you now? Well then, let me hear what you have.
Very well, very well. The verse that's giving me trouble runs like this. The light from the west is rekindled. Forth from Imladris it springs. Renewed is the hope that has dwindled.
The light from the west is rekindled. Forth from Imladris it springs. Renewed is the hope that has dwindled. To challenge the Lord of the Rings.
Hey now, that's not bad. No, maybe I can work with that. You missed your calling, my friend. Perhaps you should put down your weapons and take up a pen.
The enemy won't be stopped by poetry, I'm afraid.
Oh, I'm afraid you're right, but since these old hands are not much use with a sword, I'll just keep on with the pen. Though I'll need some help. Perhaps you could show this to the Lady Arwen. She has her people's gift with words, and this touches her deeply.
I'll take it to her.
Ah, thanks very much. Be sure to give her my compliments, won't you?
I'll be sure to do that. Farewell, Bilbo. You don't look like any elf of Rivendell. I'd wager you are one of the Wood Elves of Mirkwood.
You are correct. I am Legolas, son of Thranduil, king of the Woodland Realm. And I believe you are a dwarf of the Lonely Mountain.
I've been through Mirkwood. It baffles me that you Wood Elves chose to live in such a place.
Mirkwood is the greatest woodland in all of Middle-earth. It was called Greenwood the Great, before the shadow of Sauron fell over it. In ages past, it was a place of great beauty. But now, it is filled with darkness and dread, save only in the north where my father's realm is maintained.
What brought you on such a long and perilous journey?
Unpleasant business. My father sent me to report the escape of Gollum, a creature Aragorn had entrusted to our care.
What can you tell me about this Gollum?
A pathetic creature who long held the Ring of Power. The evil of the ring has left him twisted and tormented. His only thought is to recover what was taken from him.
How did Gollum manage to escape? I understood you Wood Elves were pretty good at holding prisoners. But this one got away?
Not from a lack of watchfulness, but perhaps from too much kindness. We occasionally allowed Gollum to go about the wood under close guard. But on one of these ventures, the guards were attacked by orcs from Dol Guldur. In the confusion, Gollum escaped. We followed his tracks southward for many leagues, until it drew near to Dol Guldur. There, it became too dangerous to pursue him any further.
Dol Guldur. A name of dread to my folk. What do you know of it?
A stronghold of the enemy in the south of Mirkwood. It was once the dwelling of the Dark Lord, until he was driven out in the year of the Dragon's Fall. But it has once again become a place of great evil. All the darkness that besets Mirkwood has its source in Dol Guldur.
So, will you be on your way back to Mirkwood soon?
No. I have been chosen to represent Elvenkind among the Company of the Ring. I will be accompanying the halfling, Frodo Baggins, on his journey south.
It seems a little strange that, with a house full of his own people to consider, Elrond chose you, a wood elf, to represent the elven folk in the Fellowship.
I asked for the privilege, and Elrond did not refuse me. I feel he may have been relieved not to lose any of his household to this quest. He will have need of all his strength, should the enemy move against Imladris.
Why'd you volunteer?
Partially to make amends for the loss of Gollum, but more so because this will be the final chapter in our long struggle against the darkness. And I wish to have a hand in our final victory. Or at least, to stand in the forefront of our last act of defiance.
Good luck to you, Legolas.
Magovanen, well met and welcome to the safe haven of Imladris.
My thanks. I'm much honored to meet you, Lady Arwen.
Durin's folk are welcome here. You have endured great danger and given us urgent warning of a new threat to the north. For this, we honor you, Farin.
Well, it was nothing, lady. It's nice of you fair folk to welcome a dwarf.
You show the modesty worthy of a hero. Estelle and my brothers have spoken highly of your courage at Fornost, and I thank you for your part in seeing to my brother's safe return. Please, take your ease and rest a while in our halls. You will find all your heart could desire, whether it be food, drink, song, or storytelling.
Bilbo asked for help with a poem. I'm fond enough of the dwarvish sort of poetry, but this elvish verse is beyond me. He asked for your help, saying the subject is a matter very close to your heart.
Then it must be about Estelle. He is fond of writing verses in honor of his good friend, and therefore often comes to me for advice. You may leave it with me, Farin. I will give it some thought and answer him myself.
Thank you, that's a relief. It's not for a dwarf to be writing lines about the kings of men. And anyway, I have little time to spare for poetry. Your father has asked me to scout the Ettenmoors.
Then I will not keep you, but we may be of service to one another. I am helping my father brew a potion known as Miraval. One sip of Miraval can renew heart and soul, and bring new vigor to weary limbs. I am in short supply of certain rare ingredients that may be found in the Ettenmoors. If I gave you a list of the ingredients, perhaps you could bring any you find while carrying out your mission. With enough ingredients, I will return the favor by brewing an extra flask that you may have for your own use.
That's a generous offer, Lady Arwen. I'll keep an eye out for what you need and bring it back once I finish scouting